What goes on Thursdays that when I come in here, this chair's like 3 inches shorter?
Zegura's sitting in that spot recording with Coach.
Yeah, but I don't touch the chair.
Yeah, every time I feel like I'm a midget.
Zegura's
every
now
time
a big man. He works out a lot, so the muscle
he
is bringing the chair
he looks
down.
fantastic. He's on the Hoff plan.
Well,
Yeah.
we can only be aspirational there. It's kind of
short of
the
him
melon
being in a fetal position crying at about 11:15 today after his workout, the Hoff workout's going exceptionally well.
It is. That's what you want to feel.
That's what you want.
Total
Pain
fatigue.
is weakness leaving the body, and it was leaving the body on my floor.
Total fatigue.
My favorite thing about this is that I just respect the hell out of you. You're a man, you're 40, and you say, well, I need to work out. So let's go to a guy who was on, Titan Games or whatever he was
That's right.
on. A guy who's Joe Thomas, the great Hoff. His focus on things is unbelievable, whether it is coffee or bourbon or wine or workouts or what he does on his plate, cooking, smoking things, sous vide, all of it. He masters things to a level of master class.
Totally. 100%.
Whatever he takes on, master
He's
class.
all in.
Like he's Hoff level across multiple boards.
Is he not the world's most interesting man? Really,
on
they
the
could build a
list.
campaign around
He's on
him.
a list. I just have never seen anybody who, when their interest is piqued, then annihilates knowledge
He's
on it.
all in. He
All
wants to
in.
be the most knowledgeable. Just the way he approached playing left
Same way
tackle,
he
but
played
then at
left
the
tackle.
same time, he can play slip and slide flip cup. I mean,
That's right.
Or
Yes.
come and fly into town and dominate a beer pong. This
Yes.
is just what can he do?
He's a
I
Hoff,
don't know.
elite,
But
across
so
the board.
listen.
So you then say, and you've always been a very fit individual, as long as I've known you, and you said, you know what, I'd like to build a little muscle mass.
Sure.
Who would be somebody that I can lean on to build? And you go, I'll call Joe. Let's call the Hoff.
The Hoff. That's
And
right.
then so you get the Hoff's plan. Like this, I would be remiss if I did not say that I am somewhat concerned for your health long term on the Hoff plan.
I think I'm going to be in the best shape of my life, without question.
I think there's a high ceiling and a low floor. You may die.
Yeah. Like
So,
right here on the floor.
You may, yes, you may be getting in the best shape of your life, but you also may die.
I hope I do.
Because I don't know if the human body is capable of what the Hoff does. Because he's not a normal human. He's a Superman.
Right.
He's like Thor or Incredible Hulk.
When I reached out to the Hoff, and look, it's about aspirations, right? So
I love it.
I want to get in even better shape, add some muscle, so I'm going to call the Hoff. In life, I still aspire to the melon standard of excellence. As you seek the holy grail.
Few people, I think that's probably why there's such a connection between those two, between the great Brad Mellon,
Yes.
and the Hoff, Joe Thomas,
Multiple-time
is
equipment manager of the year.
multiple-time equipment, and
No big
probably should rename the award for him at this point.
I think at some point it will be.
I think it probably will be at some
Hopefully
point.
it won't be humously.
Yes, no, we want it humously. We don't want post. The other would be the one we don't want.
I just wanted to say humously.
I know.
for you.
Yeah,
Thank you for
I
correcting
do-
that.
I do
because I
love
meant it. So I can't believe my dad never was like, "What are you talking like?" Hey, bozo. Hey, dummy.
Dad, how do you say this?
Nerd.
Posthumously.
Posthumously. Watch me drink my coffee.
Yes, but what Joe does, what Joe is at left tackle, Brad, of course, is as an equipment boss. So that's the same. So this is remarkable that you're doing this. I'm proud of you.
Thank
I
you.
love you. You're on this journey. I'm concerned. I'm concerned daily for you.
So these workouts are bonkers, and you go through, and part of it starts off with some type of an explosive move, whether it's like a Romanian deadlift or a heavy kettlebell swing.
For the kids, what's a Romanian deadlift? For the kids.
So it's a deadlift where when you pull it up, and maybe I don't even know. I just know that I'm doing what I was told. So you
you're
deadlift
doing what the
heavy,
Hoff says, so.
and then as you come up, the Hoff has you like kind of almost even try to jump off the ground while you pull this heavy bar up. Once it gets to your knees, you're just trying to explode up. So a Romanian deadlift, I think, starts up, goes down, and comes back up. As
Okay.
opposed to
I'm
starting
not going
down
to
and
fact
coming
check
up.
you. I'm not going to
Anyway.
be some CrossFit guy. Don't worry about it. You're
No,
fine.
maybe one of them will tell me on Twitter anyway
Sure,
if I'm
that's
right
fine.
or wrong.
That's fine.
That's what I'm doing. That's what I was doing. So and then you get into an EMOM, which is every minute on the minute is what an EMOM is called.
Okay.
And so that's where you get into heavy. So one day it's heavy bench, like as heavy as you can do for 3 reps the first week, 2 reps second week, 1 rep the third week. And it's an EMOM. So the clock starts at when you go, then you hit your 3, and then you immediately go over and you do lat pull down as heavy as you possibly can. For this.
Okay.
10 sets of that. So 10 minutes, every minute on the minute. And then one day it'll be incline bench, and then you follow that up with pull-ups every minute on the minute. And then one day it's clean and presses, but this one's 10 clean and presses, and then you do bent over rows right after for 10. Like your rest is like 5 seconds. Like there isn't rest, and you just get
the rest is you're resting the muscles, the opposite muscles. It's what it seems like.
Great,
allegedly,
wonderful.
Is that you're resting the muscle.
Then you'll go on and you'll do some type of
another muscle,
insanely heavy leg thing, whether it's squats, whether it's anything different, leg press, whatever. Then there's this thing called Bring Sally Up, the Bring Sally Up challenge. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
I heard it from my kid when I brought it up to her.
I'm hard of hearing.
Zegura, go ahead,
Sally
and then I'll
up.
tell you what my kid does to it, because she's like, yeah, everybody knows what that is. And I'm
Okay.
like,
I don't.
Well, you're gonna know.
You're insane.
What it is it's called a couple minutes to leave Nathan Zegura in a complete puddle of goo on the floor, unable to literally lift my body off of the ground.
Yeah.
So it's a song. You can YouTube this. It's even on Spotify. You can get it. It's about a 3-minute and 20-second song.
Okay.
And it goes, bring Sally up, bring Sally down. Dun, 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 dun. Bring Sally up, bring Sally down. So what the challenge is, and this is on your...
Is this a song that was made for this exercise? Or
I don't
is it a
think
song
so.
that was
I think it's
famous
just...
another,
and then they
it
brought
just,
it. I don't know if it
worked
was famous. Somebody
Okay.
heard it and was like, hey, why don't I
come up with punish
something
people with this?
torturous? Yes.
Yeah.
So when it says bring Sally up, you push up. Bring Sally down, you lower into the push-up position, but off the ground. So you hover off the ground, and it's about
that sounds fun.
4 seconds down for every time you come up. And then there's a one where they hit an interlude, and it's like 10 seconds down before you come back up. And it goes on for 3 minutes. And you've already done your max bench.
Right.
You're toast. The Hoff has not yet made it through the full thing. The Hoff. So do you think I have? Absolutely not. Do you think that the other day, I literally could not push myself back up off the ground. I collapsed and fell down there. I was like a turtle on its shell where I was just toast.
There are a lot of lyrics to this song.
It goes for 3 minutes, and every 4 seconds you're holding for 4 down, and then you're back
Nope.
up. No. Outrageous. And then there's more after that. So this is it's completely bonkers. It's completely bonkers.
According to my kid, she goes, I do squats to that.
Squats, fine, sure.
I'm like, okay.
Try doing push-ups.
But the other day, I said, why are you going to do push-ups? She goes, I do burpees to it. I'm like, I hate burpees.
Bring Sally up. I mean, you'd have to be rocking.
Yeah, and
that's basically doing burpees for 3 minutes.
Yeah. I hate
Doesn't
burpees.
sound fun.
No.
Do you guys remember in Seinfeld when Jerry's at lunch with Kenny Bania, and Kenny Bania's talking about all the things, and he's talking about working out, and he goes, Jerry, do you work out? And Jerry goes, why? That's a great line.
Why?
That is such a great line. Hey, let me run another thing that came across me, and then we'll get into all the football.
Good.
It's
I actually
Thursday.
have
We
one more
lots.
thing we have to run across, too, from my mom, from the official Nana.
Okay,
of the
from the
program.
official Nana.
Yeah.
So let me run this by you. So last night I watched the end of the USA-Costa Rica World Cup qualifier at Lower.com Field down in Columbus, the gorgeous Death Star that was built.
Beautiful.
The place
Stunning
is unbelievable.
facility.
So I watched the end of that. And then afterwards I was looking for something to garner my interest. And I was in the HBOs. I'm still a flipper. I still like to see what's around the dial. I still like to see what's going on. And so on one of the HBOs was Wolf of Wall Street. So it was about 30 minutes in, like Stratton Oakmont. I picked it up. They're at Stratton Oakmont at that point, and they're going over one of the parties in the office. Is where we're at.
Okay.
And so, well, I'm in right at that point. I'm in.
Sure.
I'm going to watch this to
Why wouldn't you be?
To conclusion. And at the end, I thought to myself, is this the most rewatchable movie of the last 20 years? Is it so much fun? Does it and then there's the historical accuracy part of it. There's all sorts of layers to
the
it.
downfall's coming. It's fine. The ride's so great.
Well, the downfall is deserved.
Well, yeah.
It's much deserved.
For sure.
I just wonder, is there, in the last 20 years, is there something that blends drama, history, comedy, all of it, as well as that one? I would nominate it very high, because if it's on, it doesn't even always have to be on HBO. It's one if it's on. It used to be on FX or whatever. If it was on, I would jump in.
And a comedy.
Yeah, because it
where
works both ways,
tough.
and I can jump in almost at any point and be like, "Oh, I know it's coming up. This will be great. Let's watch this." I was in last night I watched the last hour and a half of it.
It's a fine film.
Yeah,
There's no doubt.
I'm not saying it's like the greatest movie of all time.
No, but
I'm
it's
just saying,
entertaining.
right? there's a lot of movies that are great, but it's like, boy, there's no way I'm going to watch that again because maybe it's a tough watch or whatever, too serious, whatever. That one is to me is the perfect blend.
Yeah.
Much in the way,
like comedies are very like to me. Hangover, if it's on,
sure, but like
it on and
I can watch for
enjoy it.
scenes, but I'm not going to stay for an hour and a half, even of like Wedding Crashers or something like that. I'm not going to. I've seen them so much. Like I'll watch a couple scenes, but then I'm like, okay, I don't need to see this anymore. But that one I will stick with. It's kind of. I know that they're not similar, but it's a little bit of like Top Gun for me. Like in the old days, I would jump in at Top Gun at any point, and I'm in. Few Good Men had that for me. Few Good Men. That's on.
Were you ever big into Jerry Maguire? Because of the NFL, I thought there's some fun moments in Jerry Maguire.
It's a fine thing. I just found
too absurd.
Yeah, and just a bit annoying. The relationship, a bit annoying.
It was a bit much.
Yeah,
it was a bit much. All right, before we get into the business, it is a football Thursday.
Anyway, give some thought to that. Give some thought. I will. Most rewatchable movie of the 2000s.
I like that. I'm not afraid of that. I'm not afraid of that at all. Nana was concerned about a comment you made in passing that was not dwelled upon enough.
Okay.
That Bootsy is like his power is waning by the day. Expand. Why? How? What does this mean?
Well, I think kindergarten is sucking the life out of him. Just the fact that has to be locked down. You know, previously he was unencumbered. He was frolicking the fields, the meadows like a young boy. And now he's locked in. He's got responsibilities. A Bootsy with responsibilities is not a Bootsy that anybody. That's not a peak Bootsy.
That's not right.
He wants no responsibilities.
Sounds
His
awful.
name, in fact, is synonymous with just a zest for life and zero responsibility, pure frivolity.
Yeah. So I think in general, school is sucking the life out of him. He still has his normal zest, and he has more zest and more. He's more cocksure. He's as cocksure now as he ever was. But I just think the fact that he's in lockdown from 9 a.m. to we pick him up at 3:45.
Like real rules.
He's got rules,
follow.
and he is
He's
not
in
a
general
rule
population.
He's in Gen Pop, man.
Yeah.
I got to get him into one of those Jordan Balfour schools. That's where he's got to go. Bring it back to Wolf of Wall Street. That's where he would thrive.
Yeah, he sure would.
Negotiating deals. I got to get him out of there, man. It's too restrictive.
So this is how I picture things going now. He wakes up, walks outside in a robe, carrying his morning coffee.
Does have a robe. Yeah.
Has his morning swim, comes out, re-robes, little morning coffee.
Yeah.
Comes in, assesses what's going on in the markets.
Yeah.
Goes into school, and then comes home and is just like, what just happened to the last 6 hours of my day?
What happened in my life? Yeah.
Probably pours himself a pop.
A little soda.
He's a bit,
Get some cheese and crackers. Get a
couple-
nice
He loves a
charcuterie
snack.
board.
He loves a charcuterie
yeah, and he has
board.
a charcuterie, a couple fingers, and laments what's going on with this place that is holding him back.
I think that's right. I think that previously he was Billy Madison before the responsibility.
Right.
And now the responsibility of life has I first of all, I appreciate Nana for looking out for him.
Yes, you.
And I will say this, that he and I locked in a Halloween costume this morning.
Oh.
That is perfect.
In tandem.
It's
like it is
perfect. Perfect.
Again,
So I look forward to it.
there's no reveal.
It's a
coming.
tease. It's
We're
a tease.
2 weeks out.
We're
It's
2 weeks
early.
out.
Can I get a hint?
No,
Can the people get a hint?
it's early.
Well, I just say that anybody who appreciates this program and the things that we appreciate will appreciate the costume. There's your hint.
I almost want to take him trick-or-treating myself.
He's going to get a lot of candy.
I mean, we'll split it.
I mean, this is
50-50.
going to be – this has the potential to be an all-timer. It's got the potential. It's in play.
So is it a reference that is
Yes.
more age appropriate to you?
Yes.
Okay. All
Of
right.
course.
All right.
Everything I do is selfishly motivated.
Is there a does it originate with he's thirsty, dummy?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
Hey, stop asking.
No.
Things could change tomorrow.
No.
You sure?
No. We're locked into this.
You sure?
It was it was an easy sell job for me, though, to him. It was an easy sell job, even though it is something that means more probably to me than him, and that he doesn't really get the reference. But I sold it well this morning. So
Real quick,
You're
can-
Joe Montana. He's Steve Young. Love it.
I know that this
Would be
has
the other
totally
way.
gone off the
Love it.
rails, so we might as well keep it going off the rails.
sure.
human hugging a goose or a swan, whatever the heck that was today on social media. You had a not-so-great reaction.
Listen, my fear of those things is legitimate, is real. I have heart palpitations when I see them. I've gone to great lengths in my life to eradicate them from any sort of property I'm associated with.
And more?
No, water balloons.
Water balloons, sure.
Among other things. So when I get someone go, I hear you talking about dogs. Here's a goose. Or swan or whatever the hell the thing was. The elongated necks have always bothered me. I don't like how the necks, I don't like that.
So you don't like the Texans quarterback?
No, he's got a swan neck.
He does.
He does, that guy. Did you see the number for that game? 10. Indy by 10. 10.
Feels like
Indy?
a big number.
That feels like a lot, Coach. Feels like a lot. But I didn't do well on the scores last week, so we'll
feels
see.
Huge. Middling.
Very middling. But we don't like that here. We like to stay at a high level.
Guess what? You're still many, many, many games over 500.
That's true. That's true we are. Let's get into the OBM hot topics. Ohio Business Machine for copier provider, your Cleveland Browns, all the X's and O's for your office. Call 216-485-2000 or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. From the Arizona side of things, Byron Murphy, Marco Wilson both returned to practice on Thursday. From our side of things, Joe Woods, and we'll have this press conference for you in a little bit. You'll hear from Coach Woods, said hopefully, yes, he expects to have all of his corners for the game against Arizona and also feels good about Jadeveon Clowney.
Yeah, which is great. Listen, you're going to need to be at full strength defensively. This team is a full day. Now, we've got what I would say some insight, right? The two games that have been the toughest for them, Minnesota and San Francisco. We have very strong ties on our coaching staff to both of those organizations, and I would imagine San Francisco would love us to beat the Cardinals. So we will get, I think, some good insights and some good preparation for this game, but it will help to also have the Hosses to be able to implement your plan because this is a team with a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball.
Yes, it is. No, this is a fun game. I said it on Monday, feel the same now. I know we've both talked about it. It's the perfect game coming out of that game. It's the perfect game coming out of Chargers. It's an elixir for the whatever questioning there is around this team. You can shut a lot of it up on Sunday. Let me ask you guys this. Why is this game a 4:05 start? Do we know that? And it's not National Game of the Week? This should be National Game of the Week if it's 4 o'clock.
I would agree.
Do you know how these decisions are made, Gibbe?
I think they try to accommodate the West Coast team in this situation where they can, but because it's 1 o'clock back no, it's 3 o'clock. No, 2 o'clock.
Are they 3 or
in
2
Arizona,
hours
2
difference?
hours.
We've gone through all the time zones, Gibbe.
I have. 2 o'clock.
I think they don't change,
they
right?
Don't change
they don't do
anymore.
Daylight savings, and we haven't done daylight savings yet.
Correct.
So I would assume that we're 3 hours
three
difference
still.
right now.
Yeah.
All right, so it's 1 o'clock. I mean,
right, but we're the only one that has to do this.
I think it's 4 o'clock because.
So the Rams are playing at the Giants this week. That's at 1 o'clock. That's West Coast to East Coast.
Yeah, they often do that.
They often do this. The Chargers are playing at the Ravens. That's at 1 o'clock.
I'm assuming
the Seahawks are playing at the Steelers. That's prime time. But the
on.
other two are 1 o'clock. We're 4 o'clock. I don't know why.
Well,
and we're not National Game of the Week.
Fox.
I understand,
right?
but we're not National Game of the Week.
4 o'clock, because CBS would have it, I think, because it's MLB night for Fox. So 4 o'clock to 7, you don't get Buck and Aikman because Buck's doing baseball.
No, I understand that. There's only one Fox game at 4 o'clock. It's our game. And it's not
so
the
CBS
national
has the
game.
doubleheader.
So CBS has the doubleheader.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, why are we are losing an advantage here, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, playing at 1.
It's a West Coast team coming to our place, and we're playing them on their normal body clock time.
No,
it's not huge,
that's
but I just
Fox
don't know what the
going,
reason for it is.
That's Fox going, when they were picking the games, they said, we'll take that game. That's our best late-day game, and it'll go right into baseball coverage and the pregame at 7 o'clock.
But it's not national. It's only in the Arizona markets and our market.
Correct.
So the rest of the country isn't getting it. The big baseball markets aren't getting it. I don't understand it.
I don't know.
I don't know what the answer for that is.
Back-to-back weeks, not sure.
Yeah.
Well,
It's the only
last
Fox
week it
game.
was the New York market, wasn't it? Wasn't it Giants and
Dallas. Why wouldn't it
Well,
be
that's
national
national
if it's
game of the week.
But why wouldn't it be national if it's the only Fox game?
It's regional. Fox. So Fox. They can only. They can't. National game of the week goes everywhere. CBS has it this week. Last week Fox had it. They had Dallas and the Giants was national game of the week, right?
Yeah.
So this week national game of the week is CBS. So Fox has to put they get all of the 1 o'clock windows, and then their 4 o'clock window, they're allowed to have a game, but it's only in the local markets.
Gotcha.
So this one, if you're, for example, in Pennsylvania or Florida, you're not getting this game on
Sad.
Fox. Very sad.
This is the
'cause it's
game
a
of the
great
week.
game. It's the best. It's among the best games.
They
It's
should have- I know
probably
they-
Chargers Ravens. Like if you're redrafting, it's our game.
Yep.
It's Chargers Ravens.
Yep.
Those are the best games.
You certainly would flex us into Sunday Night Football over the Steelers and the Geno Smith
Absolutely.
Seahawks right now.
But they didn't. Apparently, they
They
didn't
can't
want to
flex
use
right
one of
now.
their flexes
It's
yet,
too
or
early.
it's too
It's
early
too
for
early.
that. Yeah. National game of the week is Cowboys at Patriots. So all right. So we don't have an answer for that. It's just somehow it is. Cowboys brand, baby. It's got a lot of power. I think that was probably a great first segment for Nana.
She's
There's
really
a lot that she
lot of
liked about
texting.
that.
Yeah,
she likes
really-
that. She really
was.
enjoys those type of first segments. We will get into the matchup coming up next. We'll hear from Joe Woods as well. We're off and running. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.
ESPN Cleveland.
Gambling without setting limits on how much you're going to wager or how long you'll play is like a football team going into a game without a game plan. It's probably going to end up in a loss. So always set limits before you bet. Get more tips like this at keepitfunohio.com. This from Dan Graziano, our good buddy at ESPN. He says, per source, there's been 3 positive COVID tests reported within the Arizona Cardinals this week, leading to increased testing for several players and personnel. The team is not yet required to move to intensive protocols, but one more positive test would put them there. For refresher, what are the intensive protocols?
I believe that means that then everybody's getting tested all the time, and that it's not you
don't want to be there.
You don't want to be in that situation.
No, you don't. All right, time for the matchup. Our defense against their offense. Dr. Z.
All right, look, this fact of the matter is this is a very, very good offensive football team, and we're talking about a team led by Kyler Murray, who is playing as well as any quarterback in the league. How well is he playing? He has joined Drew Brees and Peyton Manning as the only quarterbacks, we've talked about this, to start a season through the first 5 games over 1,500 yards passing and 75% completion percentage. So that, to me, is very, very impressive. And so he's doing that at an elite level. You go into this team, they will run 4 receivers at you. They are unique offense. This is not the run-and-shoot NFL anymore. They'll play 4 receivers 22% of the time. 22% of the time. So that's basically, 1 out of every 4 plays. They are going to be playing 4 receivers, and their receivers are good. You've got DeAndre Hopkins, you've got A.J. Green, you've got Rondale Moore, you've got Christian Kirk. All of them have more receiving yards, all 4, than anybody on our team.
It's an even more remarkable. I know I'm pointing out the obvious, but that's even a more remarkable number when you consider on 4th downs most of the time you punt. So when you think 22% of the plays.
Sure.
It's
so
an even higher number of actual plays we were playing offensive football. Non-special teams plays, it's even higher than that.
That's smart. That's next level stuff. Yes, you are correct about that. And so to me it is a fascinating thing. Here's just to give you an example of how rare what they do is.
Yep.
They have run 15 plays in the red zone with 4 receivers on the field. The rest of the NFL has run 11.
The rest of the NFL combined has run 11.
They have attempted 45 passes with 4 receivers on the field. Buffalo 33. They're the other team that'll do this. Tampa Bay 14. That's it. Everybody else single digits. And, in fact, the majority of the teams have 0. So this is a team out of this personnel. They have 548 yards out of this personnel passing, so over a third of his passing yards. Nobody else has even 150. So Buffalo's done it a lot, not nearly as effectively. They are elite at this. And so this is a very, very effective football team in this personnel, which is one that requires what? Your corners. And Greg Newsome said today he's not sure, although Joe Woods is hopeful, which we will play. As you see the great Brandon Lynch, our DB coach.
Look at that
he's
guy.
He's the corner guy. Little hustle
bounce
right
in
there.
the step. I like it.
But you've got to match up with them, and they will spread you out because they've got guys on the outside that can win on one-on-one. DeAndre Hopkins, A.J. Green is actually having a very, very nice season.
Yeah.
You can throw him the ball on the outside. So this is a very unique type of offense and a unique scheme. They have 13 explosive plays out of this formation. The rest of the NFL has 6. So, this is, when you talk about having to get ready for a totally different type of challenge, this is it. And believe me, they saw what happened to the back end of our defense in some of these zones that we play. And we're going to play a lot of zone. Busts. They're going to stress this. Down the field, they are going to stress these coverages. Why down the field, Nathan? Why do you think they're going to do that? Well, here's some facts for you. Tell me what this makes you think. Kyler Murray right now, this is on passes of more than 20 yards in the air. Kyler Murray, first in the NFL in completions, 16. Completion percentage, 70 on passes of more than 20 yards in the air.
That's crazy. That number's crazy.
Yards, 510. Yards per attempt, 22.2. Touchdowns, 4. First downs, 16. So this is going to be a real challenge for us to deal with. Then the other thing that they do, when they spread you out like that, they turn around and they hand the ball off to a guy by the name of Chase Edmonds. Chase Edmonds is averaging 5.5 yards a carry. He's only got 49 rushes, 270 yards. He also catches it effectively out of the backfield. Brandon Lynch, everybody. 23 catches, 159 yards. 23 catches, 159 yards out of the backfield. How does that rate in context for us? 159 yards. That would make Chase Edmonds the second leading receiver on the Cleveland Browns. So they will spread you out. They will attack you vertically. They will attack you horizontally. Rondale Moore in space. This is a tall day. And the other thing about Kyler Murray that I think is fascinating is that in the past, you think about Kyler Murray in the past, you'd say, okay, here's a guy that is a true dual threat quarterback. And he is. Don't get me wrong. He is still very much a dual threat quarterback. But whereas he ran for 819 yards last year, which is what, 50 a game? 16 games?
Yep.
He's only averaging 22 yards a game rushing this year. Because what he's doing more than anything is extending plays and looking to be a thrower first. He's on pace for career highs in completions and attempts, all of those things. Yards per attempt, averaging 9.16. He's completing 75% of his passes. And he knows if I just buy time, you can't cover these guys forever.
Yeah.
And with the loss of Max Williams, they may play more four receiver set. So how do we disrupt them? Good question. You look at pressure, you're like, oh, it's the obvious, right? It's the pressure. Well, he's done a very good job against pressure so far this season. His quarterback rating is, believe it or not, over 100 under pressure. One of the best in the NFL. So this is a guy that has been, quite frankly, elite under pressure. And you go through and you look at the quarterbacks, who's been the best in terms of, quarterback rating under pressure. Kyler Murray, he's right there, folks. Here's the list. Tyrod Taylor, 123. He doesn't play. He hasn't played since week 2 against us. So he's played a game and a half.
Yep.
Kyler Murray, 110. Tom Brady, 109. Matt Stafford, 105. Russ, 104. That's the list of people over 100. Josh Allen would be next on list 98.6. So he's the best quarterback under pressure.
Yep.
He's the best quarterback on vertical passes.
Yep.
So what do? I do think pressure, though, can still matter, and here's why I say we have a little bit of a chance. Rodney Hudson, the center, this season, on 178 pass blocking snaps, has allowed 0 pressures. He's out. Now it's going to be a backup center. And for a guy like Kyler, a little shorter, the way to disrupt is right through the center. Malik McDowell, Malik Jackson, these are the guys that are going to have to get after it in this game. And if there's anything that gives you a little hope, I think the gap that we're going to attack is that A gap in between the guard where Josh Jones plays and the center, or right at Josh Jones. He's allowed 12 pressures. That's the most on the team. But that's it. This is a good team. Oh, by the way, would you have had this? Gibbe.
Yes.
Who has more rushing touchdowns this year, Nick Chubb or James Conner?
James Conner.
Yes, of course. The setup there made it very obvious, but he's got 5.
Don't take away the win from me.
There are 8 players.
By the way, I was pretty good yesterday on a few questions that you asked.
All right, I'll give you one more. Who has more rushing yards, James Conner or Nick Chubb?
Nick Chubb.
There you go. All right, he's on his toes. He's on his toes.
Come on.
All right. He's got 5. Kyler Murray's got 3. They have 8 rushing touchdowns. We have, I think we have 12. There are 8 players in the league with 4 more rushing touchdowns, period.
Yep.
3 of them are on the field here. Kareem Hunt's got 5 for us. Nick Chubb 4. James Conner 5. So this is a team that has been basically good everywhere. They don't have an Achilles heel.
I think what you want to do if you're Joe Woods is you just want to keep everything in front of you. And if you think about what San Francisco did last week, that's really what it is. Kyler threw it 31 times, just 239 on the yards. They kept everything in front. They got guys down. They did the same thing in the ground game. They were really pretty ineffective running the ball. If not for Rondale Moore with the 38 yards, they're still 27 carries for 94, 3.5 yards a carry against the 49ers defense. That I think our defense, when healthy, we're similar anyway, but I think we're right on par with them. And certainly when healthy, our defensive line can be. And that's the thing that you want to do. What you don't want to happen is what happened to us last week against the Chargers, which is those big gash plays down the field. We have the same shoes, I believe.
It looks like it, right?
It looks like he got them, yeah.
It sure does. trendsetter. Way to go.
There you go.
Good for you.
Let me ask you this. I wanted to ask you this because when you were going through that stuff about Kyler and Cliff, I was thinking for a second. Is this – there's a two-parter here. Is this the best marriage of first-year coach and quarterback in recent memory, in that they both came in at the same time, running the perfect offense for the perfect quarterback? And then the follow-up of that would be, first of all, I don't think Cliff could operate without Kyler. I don't think he would have operated at all without Kyler. I do think Kyler could operate without Cliff, but I think if teams tried to make him into something he wasn't, it would have been a struggle. It's almost like this was, if not for this perfect storm between these two at this time, I don't know if either one is in the position they're in. And certainly I don't think Cliff is.
No, I think it is perfect. They understand each other. Kyler's been very good at getting the ball out in rhythm this year. And I think, 3 years in the same system, that always matters, right? That matters. And I think for Kyler Murray, he has really evolved, and I think it is. It's a perfect marriage, and that's what they did. They said, look, you're coming in to be our coach. Who do you want to run your offense? Well, I'd like Kyler Murray. Okay.
Yeah. And if Kyler landed somewhere else and they said, well, we want you to run this, I don't know if it would have worked. He thrives in space. So when they're running all this four wide, that's his comfort zone. That's what he's done his whole life, going back to – he didn't lose a high school game in the state of Texas.
Yeah, he's good.
He didn't lose a high school game. He's the number one quarterback in the country coming out. Goes to Texas A&M, transfers to Oklahoma, sits behind Baker for 2 years, wins the Heisman, is the number one pick in the draft. So that's a trajectory. But the marriage of the two of them, it's really unique, and in a way I think probably perfect. And I don't know if either one would be where they are, and I certainly don't think Cliff would be without Kyler. There was one roadmap for Cliff Kingsbury to have success in the NFL. This quarterback's it.
Here's the other thing. Kyler, we know how effective he is at extending plays. This is kind of the evolution, and talk to some people about where do you see the biggest evolution in his game that's allowing him to be what he is, right? Leading the league in completion percentage. And that's historic.
Yep.
When it's Manning 13, Breeze 18, and then Kyler Murray, the only people who've ever done it, that means you're off to a blistering start.
Yep.
It's his improvement in the quick game. In the quick game, he's completing 86% of his passes and is averaging 9 yards per attempt. That 9 yards per attempt now, as the season's gone on, that is the highest mark among stars. Remember we talked earlier, Baker was over 10 yards per attempt, Baker and Mahomes in the quick game. Baker is now, for those asking, 8.4. He's third. Kyler, Garoppolo, Baker, Murray is the answer. Joe Burrow, fourth, 8.3. The quick game, and then it takes into account the people they have in space.
Yep.
And then when he holds it, that's when you're getting into these vertical passes. And for Kyler, it's not just the vertical passing game where he's been so good. Listen to these numbers. This is at 10, from 10 yards to 19. He's been very, very good this year. In fact, his grade is awesome. From 10 yards to 19 yards, he's completing 65%, averaging 11 yards per attempt, 4 touchdowns, no interception, quarterback rating of 139.4. So it's that intermediate game where he's been excellent. The quick game, they're getting good yak after that. This is just a tough offense to deal with. What we're going to have to do is get there quickly up the middle, and we're going to have to tackle. We're going to have to play it close.
Yes.
But it's not kind of the game where you say play it close because the ball's coming out quick. It might not come out quick, and that's when you have to be leery of everything going over your
busts, because they will get you over the top. You can't have those busts against this team.
No.
You got to make them earn their points. San Francisco did that last week, held them to 17. That ought to be the game plan I think you'll see from Joe Woods. Speaking of Joe Woods, you'll hear from him coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. When you're dedicated to bringing the best value to your customers, you got to do a little work. And at Northeast Factory Direct, founded on the principle that quality shouldn't have to cost you a ton, they prove that every day. They keep the overhead low. They buy in bulk. They pass the savings on to you, the customer. And during Northeast Factory Direct's garage sale, you can find queen pillow top mattresses starting at just $399, double-sided pillow tops for just $699. And when you buy that Queen Prestige mattress for $699 or King Prestige for $799, you're going to get a bundle of free stuff, a set of sheets, 2 pillows, a mattress protector. Other places charge for that, not at Northeast Factory Direct. Check them out, West 140th Street in Cleveland, Lakeland Boulevard in Euclid, or Freeway Drive in Macedonia, or shop them online anytime at northeastfactorydirect.com. Here is your defensive coordinator, Joe Woods, at the podium. Let's have a listen.
Joe, do you get much sleep when you're big?
You guys are down.
Well, I've seen him before. This is my time in San Francisco, so I know what type of player he is. Doesn't make things better, but at least you know what you're dealing with.
And what are you dealing with?
A guy that's an exceptional athlete. Like, I don't know how fast he is, but he's fast. But he's really, a lot of people see him, you know, with their offense, running the ball, at times making big plays like that, but he can throw the ball. You know, that's the things that's a little bit different about him. I think just my perception of him is he has the arm strength. He can make all the throws. You see it on tape. So he can do a little bit of everything.
How does he see down the field?
He moves. You know, I mean, he gets back, and there's times you see him thread the needle from the pocket. But a lot of times, you know, he'll slide a little bit in the pocket just to open up some windows. But again, he can do it all. He's very, very dangerous.
So what is the key to defending him?
Try to keep him in the pocket. And it's a combination of really executing your pass rush games to try to keep him in the pocket. But at the same time, you have to bring pressure. To ask 4 guys to try to bottle him up and keep him in the pocket is a tall task. So I think it has to be a combination of what we do with our front, what we do from a pressure standpoint, and then mixing up our coverages.
With the way they play, like big picture offense, with the way they play and you know how they play, what makes it a difficult matchup for defense?
Well, right now it's, you know, you go back to the Chip Kelly era, like everything's fast, they're on the ball, and it's a difficult offense to defend in terms of executing your responsibilities with all the different type of runs. So you put those two things together, it makes it extremely difficult. So, you know, we're working as hard as we can in practice just to try to simulate that, but you can't replicate the game speed. So
I know the game has evolved to this point where you know you're used to seeing, you know, these fast offenses and spreading it out, but are they a little bit more unique than anybody else, or do you think they fall into categories with other teams?
Yeah, they're unique because I think you see more of the college aspect. Like if you look at Baltimore, those guys are a little bit more unique than other teams. And when you have the quarterback that can run the offense, that's what really makes it dangerous.
Joe, what happened on those 2 long touchdowns?
That's what I was asking myself when it happened. But seriously, we did some different things. We made some additions to our package. We did some different things from an operations standpoint. And if you're off just a little bit on game day, that's what happens. And we were off a little bit. I look back at the game plan because you're always pushing that threshold of what's enough and what's too much. So we really worked on it this week just in terms of having a tight menu just to make sure we can execute.
So is that an assignment breakdown, Joe, or is it a read, or is it a combination of
technique? It was a technique of how we were going to play it off of what they did.
I see.
And that's what happens when you do some things, like you want to take advantage of what you see on tape. So you're repping, say, a certain defense versus a couple different routes. You call the defense on game day, it's something different.
Yeah.
And that always happens, but we were just a little bit off just in terms of the execution.
Joe, it's one thing that the quarterback with his speed, and then you add Rondale Moore onto that field. How does that complicate your task?
Yeah, it's a lot of speed. You know, really it's like playing basketball on grass. You're going to have to defend the width of the field. And they spread you out just in terms of what they do. So it's going to be our ability to make tackles out in space, sometimes one-on-one. And I believe in our guys. We have speed too, but that's really what it's going to come down to.
Do you expect to have all your corners?
Hopefully, yes.
Joe, it seems like does he take deeper drops than normal? And does that kind of invite you, or does that lead to trouble because there's even more space and then you're kind of caught in between?
Well,
rushing him? And
there are certain quarterbacks that do that.
Yeah.
You know, Mahomes does the same thing. If you feel pressure because they believe in their arm strength, so let's back up by time and I can still make the throw. And you see him do that at times, and he's dangerous. You know, he's hard to deal with, but we'll put together a good plan.
Joe, is it fair to say that JOK, when you drafted him, with in mind the Kyler Murray's, Lamar Jackson, you know, that maybe he could be a guy that could shut him down or help shut him down?
Yes.
Expand on that.
Yes. In our system, we really like athletic linebackers. The more that offenses change and they spread you out and try to create matchups, defensively, we want to be able to create the matchups we want. So now when you have a guy like JOK, Grant Delpit, you can put more speed on the field. You feel like now you're putting those advantages in terms of the matchups on your side.
Is it unrealistic to say that you can't use a spy in the NFL?
No, you can. You can. I think you have to be careful in terms of what type of quarterbacks you spy and what they're trying to do. But you can still spy.
And that's six games into the JFK and really Delpit now.
Mm-hmm.
Are they caught up enough so that you can use them the way you envision?
Oh, definitely. And that's what I was saying, operation-wise, and what we did. We kind of made a big jump, you know, last week in terms of what we had on our game plan, and it's really just moving forward, like completely with our dime package. So we're definitely heading that direction. We'll continue to do that the rest of the season.
From operations standpoint, you know, we saw JJ3 with the green dot and talked about it.
Yeah.
Did everything go smoothly that way?
Yeah, it was. It was tough, and you have to give credit to the Chargers. They did a great job, and simply they made more plays than we did. But for him to call it, get down, get back out, and they're on the ball, he did a great job during the week, and in the game he handled it very well. So it should be easier moving forward.
You want to keep that with him then?
Right now, and we're just going to keep evaluating it and see where guys are at. But right now, we'll probably keep the green dot on.
The DPI on AJ Green, what's your take on that?
I'm a DB coach.
Yeah.
I never worry about it because there's a lot of contact. So there's penalties they don't call where I see we're holding. There's penalties where their offense pushes off they don't call. Sometimes they call it. But I never concern myself with those penalties.
Did he have a good game?
He did. I think people remember what happened at the end of the game because it was the penalty, and then we had the coverage where he got beat inside. But he had, I think, 3 pass breakups before that. He was doing a good job.
Joe, in a team like the Cardinals, we talk about their speed, but they had some undersized guys, right? Kyler and Edmonds and more. But can you try to beat up a team like that, or because they have Hopkins and Green, it makes it hard to do that?
What do you mean by beat up?
Physically, physical at the line of scrimmage. Belichick does that with teams.
You got to try to catch them first, but you know what I mean. No, I think we're just going to play our brand of football, and sometimes it's zone and keeping our eyes on the quarterback and getting breaks, and playing physically that way. Sometimes it's just man coverage, just trying to stay as tight as possible. But we'll play our brand of football. But with those guys, they try to put them in positions where you can't touch them. So we just got to get as many people to the ball as we can.
And how hard was it finding out Sunday morning that Jadeveon can't play?
It happens, and that's why as a coach you can't let things surprise you. Like, oh my God, what are we going to do? We addressed it, looked at our game plan, made the adjustment we need to make, talked to the people we need to talk to, and just went out and played the game.
Feel good about him this week?
I do.
Joe, Hopkins, no one's asked you about him here. It's Thursday, and he's one of the best players in football, isn't it?
Yes, there's no doubt. And it's been a couple years since I've seen him, but he's really a guy we all know has great hands. He separates at the top of routes. He's just a crafty guy that's been able to do it for a long time. So we've definitely talked to the DBs just in terms of how we feel we should play him. But even saying that, it's easy to say, harder to do.
Does he just go up and throw 50-50 balls to him?
If there's anything around him, he's catching it. One hand, two hand. He just has that big catch radius, and he rarely drops any passes thrown to him.
The Hail Mary pass last year.
I know. Hopefully we won't get to that.
John Johnson was talking about with Kyler. He likes it when rushers get off the ball real fast because he can kind of dance around that initial rush. And that's the instinct of a defensive lineman is to get off the ball.
Yeah.
What's the happy medium when trying to get after Kyler in that regard?
You have to have a plan. It depends on what we're calling up front, but you're either running your pass rush games to try to direct them one way to somebody trying to run them down, or if it's more of a straight rush, it's just a plan of how you're going to play your inside players and your ends. Who's going to control the pocket. Is it more of a level rush, or you're trying to set an edge and bring somebody from the other side? So there's multiple things we do, and we're going to need all of them.
Joe, you mentioned it before. You're going to get PI calls. There's going to be stuff that doesn't, whatever.
Yeah.
Are they allowing more hand fighting to go on? It just seems like it's just much more physical downfield than it's been in the past.
I think it depends on the crew that you get.
Gotcha.
We're always aware of what certain crews like to call, but we want to play physical. We want to put our hands on people, but at the same time, we want to do it where we're legal. But that's just part of the game. All the DBs I coach, I was like, don't even bring it up. Sometimes they're going to get us, sometimes they're going to get them, but we just want to make sure we're executing our techniques.
Is it hard for you as a coach to coach your guys to carry a guy into the end zone?
Yes. But it was the best thing to do for this situation. And it's really something that we talk about. You don't want to talk about. We practice. And unfortunately, we had to use it that game, but the guys executed.
Staley, after the game, thought he wasn't sure if it was legal because his guy had given up. But as far as as long as the guy's kind of standing, you can just carry him in.
Yeah, that's on the refs to make that call. But they did a good job executing.
When did you practice that? Training camp or during the week?
We just have situational periods that we do it, where we try to address the last play. When the victory situations, other situations, and I don't do it every week, but I just make sure I cover it probably once every 4 weeks.
You've been coaching the NFL for a while now, so at what point did you start practicing that? Is that a recent thing?
It was recent. Towards the end of my time in Denver, we started talking about that situation. But again, it's something you hope doesn't come up.
Yeah.
But it did.
Hey, Miles only practiced, I think, once last week, right?
Yeah.
He played
90 seconds.
The game, he's going to keep pushing through it.
Yeah.
What are you seeing from him behind the scenes? Is it, has it set an example to other guys when he does that? And how do you think he played through it?
Yeah, every player has those little bumps and bruises they have to deal with. And I think seeing the leader of our defense trying to push through it just helps motivate the guys. Like when they feel that way, like I see Miles doing it, that I need to step up and I need to do it. And we don't want to encourage guys that are truly injured to go out there. That's a decision they have to make. But I think Miles going out in the field and fighting through those things is big for us, what we're trying to do defensively.
Joe, Coach Staley went, I think, on 4th down 3 times last week, and it just seems sorry to bring it up.
No.
And it just seems like there's that aggressiveness across the league. Do you think that's here to stay? Do you think that's going to be the kind of the new way we're going?
With all the analytics, I think all these situations are talked about more. I know as a coaching staff,
30 seconds, guys.
At the end of the week, and you talk through those type of situations and situations you see that happen throughout the league every week. And he was aggressive. The one where they were backed up, it's just we just struggled, whether we hurt ourselves or we just didn't execute. But the one where was backed up and they converted, that was huge because it could have changed the game. To we would have been up 30 something to 13 at that point or something like that. So
5 seconds.
But
you're hot.
No situations.
Yeah, that one will absolutely kill you. That one from their own 20. If your Social Security benefits have been denied, call the disability lawyers at 1-800-ELK Ohio. Elk and Elk's a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. We go behind enemy lines coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. EOXvantage has the local presence and the global footprint, trusted by some of the world's biggest brands. Tom Daugherty is an EOXvantage client, is a senior VP of specialty programs at the NIP Group. He has this to say: I have a saying about working with EOXvantage. If you dream it, they can build it. We generate lots of ideas for them to carry out. They've implemented everything we've come up with. We brainstorm ways to innovate and improve our company. We use EOXvantage for their infrastructure, coding, and programming capabilities, technological expertise, and experience working with global brands. We're absolutely thrilled with the partnership, and you will be too. And you can learn more about it at EOXvantage.com, www.eoxvantage.com, or call 216-298-1616. Local company here, guys. Again, 216-298-1616. Z, practice updates. What do you got?
All right, on the defensive side of the ball, some good news. Remember, our corners are all practicing. Greg Newsome saying today he wants to really feel like he can make every cut possible on that calf, and if he can, he would be good to go. But Denzel back, Greedy out there as well. Returning to the side of that side of the ball today, Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, and Tack McKinley, your top three defensive ends, all back at practice. Offensively, David Njoku back at practice, a guy that I think is going to play a bigger and bigger role as this season goes on. Browns working on the side today, Jack Conklin with a knee. He's on a bike along with Malcolm Smith and Kareem Hunt. Jed Wills also off to the side working. Remember, he tried to practice a little bit yesterday, then could not finish. And I wonder if Jed Wills will be out again this Sunday, and it'll be the guy we got to talk to. And if you missed that conversation, please seek it out on the podcast with Blake Hance. Some good insight into a guy that has had quite a journey to his first NFL start. That's what it was down there in Sunday's first NFL start. Oh, left tackle, Joey Bosa, no big deal. And he handled it with great aplomb. Now, not on the field in any capacity today, Nick Chubb, calf, J.C. Treader, knee. Not concerned yet at all.
Mm-hmm.
But if that doesn't change by, call it Friday, then
Tamari, right?
Which would be Tamari, yeah, Friday. That would become, at that point, you say, okay, maybe I'm going to get a little bit concerned about the availability there. But as of now, I am not concerned. I will let you know tomorrow if there is any concern. But as of now, not concerned at all about your running backs for this game against Arizona.
Yeah, we didn't see anything on Sunday with them, did we? Did you on
no,
the sideline?
We
I didn't
did
see
not.
anything.
We did not. So we just have to hope that these guys are good to go. And sometimes, there are indications of things that are a little bit less strenuous for guys to go through. And you can kind of get a little heads up on whether or not they're going to be ready to roll. But the truth of the matter is the Browns have, in my opinion, unique running back depth. Not that you would want to see a game that you did not have the services of either Nick Chubb or Kareem Hunt, but Dearness Johnson, whenever he's been given the ball, has given you more than 5 yards of carry and would be able to fill in nicely if that were the case. Again, I don't expect that to be the case. I think you'll have one or both of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in this one.
All right, let's go around the league here briefly. You saw the news this morning on Sean Taylor. So the Washington football team announcing this morning that they are retiring Sean Taylor's number 21. Sean Taylor, for the kids out there, was off to one of the bright, shining star careers in the NFL. He was murdered in his own home in 2007. He's one of the coolest players you'll ever see and inspired a whole bunch of players to play the position and try to be Sean Taylor. Most did not have his physical gifts or his abilities, but he was an inspiration for many. You could argue very plainly that this probably should have happened a while ago. I think it's pretty transparent why it's happening now, and so much so that today the Washington football team had to put out a statement saying, essentially, this has been in the plan for months, while apologizing that we're only giving our fans 3 days to know about this. It's not a great look, Bob.
It is not a great look, and it feels like, hey, look over
Josh
here.
Is ready, guys.
But we'll talk about it more. We'll go behind enemy lines now, but not great.
No, not. Do the opposite.
Right.
Ought to be the general rule there. All right, let's head behind enemy lines now with Josh Weinfuss, staff writer for ESPN, of course, covering the Cardinals. Josh, thank you so much for taking the time. 5-0, these Arizona Cardinals coming into this one. Kyler seems to be able to do whatever he wants, flying high. San Francisco had some success keeping them under their point totals, seemed to be able to keep a lot of the offense in front of them. From that perspective, what should Joe Woods, our defensive coordinator's approach be at slowing down this Kyler attack?
Yeah, Yeah, they have to be very physical up front. That's what the Niners did. They have a very good, front seven, great defensive line, and they were able to really, contain the edge, kind of stuff that middle, and then, make Kyler work for all his yards. And, the more they were able to get to him, in which they did more, it felt like they were getting to him more than other teams were. It made him kind of, go a little faster, work a little harder for those yards. So if the Browns can do that, get Kyler moving, make him, make a decision quicker than normal, then I think this could be a very interesting ball game.
This offense, it does something that really nobody else in the NFL does. I mean, you go through the numbers and you see that in most cases they have more yards by a wide amount, more plays, more big plays than the rest of the NFL combined with 4 receivers on the field. In fact, all 4 of the Cardinals receivers have more receiving yards than anybody on this Cleveland Browns team. What does that formation do for this team, and how are they exploiting it so effectively?
I mean, it's really kind of one of the foundations of the air raid, which Cliff Kingsbury grew up in. But even though he doesn't run the quote-unquote air raid like the Mike Leach or Hal Mummy version of the air raid, it's his version. But what it does is, it spreads the field out. It makes the defense really have to decide which one receiver we're going to double, because you really can't double 2 in it. And then, off of that, they can either do 2 on each side of Kyler Murray or a 3-in-1 situation. When they do 3-in-1, the single guy is usually DeAndre Hopkins. And that means a defense has to roll extra coverage, or they don't have to, but they should probably roll extra coverage his way. You don't want him going one-on-one, and that leaves the 3 guys open one-on-one. When it's 2-and-2, you see a lot of crossing patterns, a lot of mesh. But this offense works very well at a 4 wide in the short field, right? 0 to 10 yards off the line of scrimmage. They're doing a lot of crosses. They're making defenses pick and choose. They're setting the quote unquote unintentional pick, stuff like that. And it's really a lot of post snap decision making for a defense. And for teams that haven't seen it, that can be kind of confusing. It can be kind of hard. And then the Cardinals play at such a fast pace that you can do it every single down, and that's where they start to wear you down.
Josh, is this Nathan and I were talking about this in the first hour of our program. Is this as perfect a marriage of coach and quarterback both going in the first year together as we've seen in recent memory? It almost feels like would Cliff have succeeded without Kyler? I feel like Kyler probably would have had a better chance without Cliff, but I don't know if Cliff would have been given a shot without Kyler. And I commend the Cardinals for doing it, frankly.
It seems like it, right? I mean, Cliff Kingsbury has known Kyler Murray since he was 15 years old when he started recruiting him as a sophomore in high school to Texas Tech. Obviously, there was, Cliff will admit that there's no way he was getting him because of how good Kyler was. But they started that relationship then, and obviously, Kyler's high school coach started going to Lubbock to coaching clinics at Lubbock at Texas Tech to learn about the air raid. So Kyler has been in this offense since about the 8th grade. So you pair all that together, and then you hire Cliff Kingsbury. They have the number 1 pick. The guy he's known forever, the guy he would have loved to have in college, is available. I mean, it may be, if we go back in NFL history, it might be the most perfect quarterback coach marriage in the entire in the history of the game. I mean, you really might not be able to, and it might sound like hyperbole to some, but try to name another coach who is able to handpick his quarterback to specifically work in his system perfectly. You can't find it. And would Cliff work, would he succeed with other quarterbacks? I think so. I mean, look at the guys he's put in the NFL. He coached Baker Mayfield, his freshman year, Patrick Mahomes. So I think that he would be able to find success with other coaches, and I do think that Kyler would find success. With other quarterbacks, and Kyler would find success with other coaches. It just wouldn't be this, right? It wouldn't be this. I don't want to call it magic, but like what they're doing in year 3, they were averaging 35 points a game before last week. Now they're still averaging over 30. Putting up 350, 400 yards a game. It's kind of. I think it's hard to see that happening so quickly if these guys weren't with each other.
And you're seeing it. I mean, Kyler on a historic start to the season, leading the league in completion percentage, averaging over 300 yards a game. What have you seen as the evolutions in his game? Because from afar, it feels like he's buying more time as opposed to looking for big runs. He's looking for big plays down the field, and he's been very effective there. But also in the quick passing game, it just seems like he's taken another step. What do you think? What do you attribute kind of this evolution, this really hot start to?
Yeah, I think it sounds so cliche, but the game really is slowing down for him, right? He's in year 3. Year 1, obviously, as a rookie, any offseason is a mess because you go through the draft process. His second offseason, well, he didn't really have one because of the pandemic. So now you finally get, an on-field offseason and going into year 3, and we're kind of seeing the product of that. I think if we had to boil it down to one thing, I think it's his ability and understanding of checking in and out of plays and coverages and schemes and blocking schemes. He had not been able – he wasn't really doing that before this year. And now that he can do that, he understands what the defenses are doing, what they're trying to do to him. All these exotic looks don't scare him anymore, essentially. So he's able to then say, all right, they're doing this, we're going to go into this instead of just running whatever Kingsbury gives him. And I think his ability to do that gives him more confidence. It lets him to do more what he feels he's more comfortable with, what he's good at. And it kind of gives him complete control over this offense. And I think he's making this team right more often than not, whether it's scrambling out of a sack or it's checking them into the right play. Last week, the late touchdown to DeAndre Hopkins that put the Cardinals up for good, that was him checking into a play because he saw Hopkins with one-on-one coverage. So his understanding of the game, he's always had the physical, right? He's always had the tangible. Now it's the intangible. It's a mental game that's really making him, I think, stand out from above, from beyond even some of the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
How big of a loss is Rondy Hudson, and how does that impact this line and what this offense is trying to do?
Yeah, this team's trying to downplay it, but it's pretty massive. What he's able to bring to this, not just the offensive line, but the entire offense was, experience. He was kind of that veteran voice in Kyler's ear saying, this is what we should do here. This is what we should do here. He was able to recognize coverages and blocking schemes way quicker than they've had centers do here in the past. So just not having that voice, I think one part that's probably very underrated is how he was able to kind of set up the other offensive linemen. They looked to him for everything, and he loved that. He's great with that. He does not mind setting up all these other pieces for this team to find success, on offense. So it's a bigger loss than I think that they're trying to lead on. They're trying to downplay it quite a bit, but I think it could be pretty significant. I think Max Garcia, who's his replacement, is physically capable of playing the position. I think, once again, just like Kyler, it's that mental game that they're going to be lacking without Rodney Hudson.
Josh, when we flip it and we think about the Browns offense versus the Cardinals defense, what answer will they have for the two-headed running back monster that is Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt?
Honestly, it'll depend on which running defense shows up on Sunday. We've seen them totally shut down Derrick Henry in week 1. They held him to 58 yards. It was a masterful performance, and they've been pretty bad ever since. So it really is going to depend, on which unit decides to wake up Sunday morning. And this could either be a situation where they hold them to under 100 yards combined, or it's going to be a situation where they run for 200. I don't think there's any gray area. It's going to be either or. But really, there's no way to predict it at this point.
Another thing that there's no way to predict right now is what's going on with the Cardinals and COVID. What is the latest? What can you tell us? And is the team expecting to have or not have the excellent pass rusher Chandler Jones?
Yeah, it doesn't look like they're going to have him. He went on the COVID reserve list on Tuesday. On Wednesday, Cliff Kingsbury said he was symptomatic. So that means, he has to have 2 negative tests 24 hours apart, and then he has to be asymptomatic for 48 hours. So if he's still symptomatic today, that sounds fine. So that would be, he would have to have a negative test today, negative test tomorrow. So he might not be able to play at this rate. So I think he's probably, I'd say more than likely going to be out. We'll hear from Cliff Kingsbury tomorrow, kind of for an official ruling. But, not having him there is going to be, I think, a little bit of an issue for this defense because so many teams game plan around him because he's so dominant, right? He's not one of these pass rushers that needs to hit the quarterback or bring him down. He just needs to get to his arm, and he's very good at that. He's very long. He can reach around tackles and just knock the ball out or knock an elbow and cause, a strip sack, which is still a sack. So not having that, I think, is going to allow the Browns to focus more on, slowing J.J. Watt, slowing Marcus Golden. And then I think that then gives Baker more time to throw. And the Cardinals' 2 starting cornerbacks have been dealing with some injuries. They're supposed to come back this week. It can be one of those, snowballs. Everything kind of piles on top of each other. And I think if the Browns play this right, they can make life very difficult for the Cardinals this week.
Josh, thank you so much for making it easy for us. We appreciate your time today.
Anytime, guys.
All right, that's Josh Weinfuss, senior staff writer, ESPN, covering the Cardinals. If your game plan for this season includes buying or selling a home, Howard Hanna Real Estate Services has you covered. Visit howardhanna.com/go Browns today. Our offense versus that Cardinals defense coming up next. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Browns fans can win big with digital scratch-off game brought to you by Ohio Lottery on clevelandbrowns.com and the Browns social channels. Fans can play once per day throughout the season by digitally scratching off a virtual card for chances to win great prizes like Team Shop gift cards and tickets to future games. For more information, log on to promotions.clevelandbrowns.com. Time to meet our offense against their defense. Dr. Z.
All right, this is going to be a good matchup for the Browns against this Cardinals defense. And it's a defense, though, that could be, as we just heard from Josh, undermanned. And Chandler Jones, that would be a big deal if they are without Chandler Jones. He's one of the premier pass rushers in the league. Just asked the Titans when he hung 5 sacks on them back in week number 1. For the season, here's where things stand for Arizona. They have the 6th-ranked scoring defense, allowing just 19 points per game. They're allowing 5.65 yards per play, 14th touchdowns allowed on the season. They've allowed 12. That's 11th. In terms of defense, where they're vulnerable, though, you guessed it, rushing yards, 139 per game, 28th in the NFL. They are 7th in the NFL against the pass. How about this? 7th in the NFL against the pass. Or, I'm sorry, they're 7th in the NFL with the pass at 285, 8th against 214, and they have a turnover differential of +5. So that's where they've been very good. So who is this defense? Well, up front, it's built around J.J. Watt wreaking havoc in the middle, Chandler Jones coming off one edge, Marcus Golden coming off the other edge. Golden's got 2 sacks. Chandler Jones has 5 on the season. In the middle, it's Zach Allen is the big defensive tackle, number 94 in the middle. He has not had a great year, one of the lowest graded players on their team. That's why their run defense has not been excellent, as Josh talked about. You can absolutely run on this team. They have missed tackles. Now, they're undefeated, so we're nitpicking here, right? This is a team that's been very successful.
Yep.
But you can get after them up the middle. Zach Allen, Rashard Lawrence, they have not been great this year. The guy that has been great, as I mentioned, J.J. Watt, he's the highest graded player on their team, leads the team with 23 pressures, leads the team with 9 quarterback hits, leads the team with 14 hurries. In terms of run stops, he's got 8 near the line of scrimmage, so he's been elite in that regard as well. Second level, Isaiah Simmons, Zaven Collins, although Jordan Hicks has played more than Zaven Collins thus far.
We know all those guys. Jordan Hicks is an Ohio kid, played at University of Texas. I think he's a Springfield kid.
Yeah.
And then we certainly talked about Zaven Collins a lot. We were talking about elite traits. You remember? We end up with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, but Collins is a guy we talked about a lot in the draft, and obviously Dos Unos is Dos Unos. We talked about him a lot 2 years ago.
So far, Hicks has played 321 snaps, and he's played 169 of their coverage snaps. Simmons, 295 snaps, 161 in coverage. So those guys are the ones who play in the sub-package games. Zaven Collins has been on the field only 113 snaps, so not playing a ton, 52% of the time in coverage. Collins was a guy, remember, who was supposed to be a pass rusher blitzer. Doesn't even have a single pressure on the year, which is interesting. Simmons, 12 stops near the line of scrimmage. He's forced 2 fumbles. He has an interception. He's had a very nice sophomore season. And then Hicks, the reliable veteran, certainly knows how to win and is helping the football team in that regard. Back end, Byron Murphy Jr., the corner out of Washington. Right now, 6 pass breakups. 6 passes defense. He's got 3 interceptions on the season, a quarterback rating of 62 when targeted. He has been very, very good. Now, he's given up some big plays, given up 18.7 yards a catch, but when you test him, you've got to be accurate with the ball. He will get his hands on. He's got great ball skills. The other corner is Marco Wilson, who was back at practice today. Wilson is a rookie drafted in the 4th round this year out of Florida. He's back along with Robert Alford, is the other corner. The best corner that they've got by far so far is Murphy. Wilson, he's given up a quarterback rating of 139 when targeted, 78% completion, so you want to pick on him a little bit. Alford, 62% completions, quarterback rating of 91. And then you get to the back end, and this is, Buda Baker's as good as it gets in the National Football League. He's involved in everything, interceptions, pass breakups. He is great in run support. Buda Baker on the season for them, he's got the run stops. He's got double-digit run stops. He's kind of a honey badger, a do-it-all type safety. So you've got to be careful. As I said, this team will take the football away from you. They are ball-seeking. They have forced 9 fumbles on this season, 3 from the linebackers, 1 Jordan Hicks, 2 from Isaiah Simmons. Chandler Jones has 3, the big strip sacks. That's a third of them, and he might not play. He also has the 5 sacks, as I mentioned. Murphy, the 3 picks, 1 pick for Buda Baker. It's a defense with a lot of talent, but there are guys that you can attack. And without Chandler Jones, there honestly has not been much pass rush other than J.J. Watt. Golden, yes, he's gotten to the quarterback, but his pressure rate is not that high. And so I think that's the matchup for us. I think we can throw it at some of the corners. You got to be cognizant of where Murphy is at all times. You got to be cognizant of Budda Baker.
I think the other thing, and Josh was on with us talking about how well they played against Derrick Henry. They also jumped out to a big lead. They were up 24-6 at half in that game. So Tennessee was not at any point. It was 10-0 in the first quarter. Tennessee chased that game or had to chase that game for the entire game. So it's going to be really important on Sunday that we take the fight to them, that we inflict the pain to them early and make this our type of game with our backs and behind our offensive line. I think that you can create a lot of problems for them being physical in the run game, which is something we thrive at.
Yes.
You're not going to find anybody who runs as violently as our two guys do. That combination is as good as any that's ever been in the league. So I think if from that standpoint, I think it's critical that you don't end up chasing, and we haven't had to chase anybody yet. We haven't. Even in our losses, we've been the ones controlling the game. So we haven't had to chase until the last 3 minutes of games. So as long as you continue to have that formula, I think you're going to have a lot of success against this Arizona defense.
I agree with you, and I think that that's kind of what you need to do. Wear them down, be physical with them, and dictate the way the game goes. They're a great time of possession team. So are we, though, and I think we need to try to do that. Not only does it help your defense stay fresh, it keeps their offense off of the field. And I think if you're the Browns, that seems to make a lot of sense in a game against a team like this. But I think we can get after them. They're going to play as many of these teams are doing, which I think is so interesting, right? And one of the things I talked with Kevin Stefanski about, we got the Coach Stefanski show tonight,
Sure.
Browns Live tonight, just kind of the tendency around the league now where you are seeing teams play a lot more shell defenses.
Mm-hmm.
And so for teams that can't run the ball as well, that makes things very difficult for them. For a team like us that can run the ball very well, it helps us, but at the same time, they're limiting the explosives. And this is a team that's going to play cover 3, cover 2, quarters. That's what they're going to play. The majority, they play some cover 1, though. They'll play some of that cover 1 man, 23%, but the rest of the time, they're going to be in a lot of zones and a lot of shell defense. And so the Browns, this sets you up to run the football. But when you got those shots and when you watch the tape, there are opportunities to push ball down the field. We've got to take advantage of them because it just makes it easier when you don't have to really matriculate the ball down the field in 16 plays when you could do it explosively. As you saw when the Chief hit that home run as he caught it, broke free, and took it to the house.
They're so deflating when those things happen.
Yes.
And to this point, we just haven't had them
Consistently,
and really not at all to our receivers. So it's something that we have to start to hit on.
Not since week 1.
No, that's
the
what I
bomb
mean.
to Schwartz. When's the last time you can think of a bomb that we had?
I can't even. There's not even anything. That's what we were talking about. We haven't even had much in the intermediate to deep game to the receivers. If not for Chief, which is a catch and run,
sure,
we just haven't had that hookup the way that and it's the last thing.
It's
the only thing we're missing offensively.
We haven't completed a pass of more than 20 yards, I know, in back-to-back games, and it could be even longer than that.
Yeah, so that's something that's going to have to get sorted out because you're going to need those big plays against this Arizona offense in order to keep up because they are awfully explosive. You'll hear from our offensive coordinator, Alex Van Pelt, coming up next. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. And Beau Bishop here for my friends at Raising Cane's. What do you get when you combine the best ingredients with the best crew? You get Raising Cane's quality chicken finger meals made just for you, in fact, and you can join their crew today, ready to safely serve the community. Apply today at workatcanes.com and text RC Jobs to 97211. Standard message rates may apply. Raising Cane's, one love. Time to hear from our offensive coordinator. Here's AVP at the podium.
Well, Odell was out here.
You're down.
Of course he'd like the ball more, but he understands, it's 3 games, et cetera, et cetera. Do you guys need to do a better job of getting him more touches, though, Alex?
Yeah, he needs to touch the ball. He's a good player, and finding ways to get him the ball is important to all of us. He does so much for us. Just thinking about the touchdown to Higgins, 3 guys covered him. He brings a lot out there. He gets a lot of coverage drawn his way. I know the production hasn't been there for him, and I'm not worried about that. I do think it will come. It's still early in the process for him back on the field. So that's not an issue in my mind. But, it's the other stuff that he does really. And in the run game, I know it's not sexy, but he was really effective, really came down and really put the wood to a couple of those safeties in the game. He does a lot of great things other than catching the ball on the field. But, yeah, I'd like to see him catch some more balls.
It's a happy medium there. I mean, it's like if you throw it to him 10 times, you're accused of forcing it to him. If you throw it to him 4 times, you're not involving him enough. And you have so many playmakers offensively. Just from your perspective, what is that happy medium of feeding him enough so he's effective but not force feeding him?
Well, I think you call plays with him in mind, and we call a lot of plays with him in mind. There's no doubt our game plans are focused around him in a lot of the ways, like where can we put him where we can give him the ball. Now the defense sometimes won't let you do that, so I don't think it's a matter of us not trying to get him the ball as much as we definitely have that in the back of our mind when we game plan. Sometimes the defense doesn't allow you to throw him the ball, so just staying patient, stay within our system, our process. We feel really good about everybody that's out there right now, but really appreciate his effort out there, and we're all in it to win at the end of the day.
Even when you see things on film, say you have some buy-in from him, do you still feel like you have to talk to him and say your day's coming?
I think every great receiver, and I would be mad if you didn't want the ball more. I mean, really, that's the reality of it. Those guys need to touch it, and they want to touch it. And the human nature is to get frustrated when you don't. But like I said, it's way too early in the season right now to worry about that in my mind. His plays will come for sure, and it'll probably come in bunches when it does.
It seems like every week we're asking you about Baker and Odell. No other receiver.
Yeah, you want to talk about Blake Hance coming in and playing lights out against Joey Bosa. You want to talk about James Hudson coming in and playing and back up a Jack. I mean, there's a lot of other guys on that offense that make us successful. Obviously it's important to everybody else about that. For us, it's not. We go to work with the guys. We're proud of the guys that we have out there, and it'll come. I'm not worried about that.
But still, it seems like Baker is in rhythm with other guys, but 2.5 years or whatever now, it still doesn't seem to be clicking with Baker and Odell. So why is that?
I don't think that that's I don't know where to put the finger on that one. A lot of the times, like I said, defense dictates where the ball goes. I haven't seen any miscommunications on the field where Odell's in one spot and Baker's throwing to a different spot. So I guess I don't feel that as much as maybe it shows up for everybody else, because we practice out here 3 times a week and it looks great.
Alex, Kevin talks a lot about collaboration with you guys during a game as far as play calling. But at the end of games, does the collaboration get in the way at all? Everything is so hectic. Doesn't somebody have to just be there for every play?
Yeah, that's Kev. I mean, he does a great job with that. If we don't just sit there and, hey, say, how about this? Let's do this. Mm-hmm. It's a matter of, hey, what do you guys think on this one? And then we collaborate at that point. But, Kevin's in charge, and he's done a great job with the play calling. I mean, I don't know if I've been around much better. When he gets going, it's impressive to watch.
Speaking of those tackles, where do you think you stand this week with Jed and Jack?
Yeah, not really sure. Hopefully we can get them out later in the week. But if not, it's next man up mentality for us. And those guys, Blake, I was really proud of him last week. He did a really nice job. Bosa went over there on his side a lot. And, he held up. It was great. And then James came in late in the game and played well for us. So next man up mentality, I know that's how we prepare those guys, and they'll be ready to go. If Jed's back, that's a bonus. Jack's back, that's a bonus. But if not, feel really good about our guys.
If you need both those guys Do you like Blake better at left tackle?
Oh, that's yeah. I wouldn't. I would defer to Coach Callahan on that for sure.
And Jed, we saw him start practice yesterday, and it looked like the ankle was bugging him again, and he stopped. Was it only the beginning?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to speculate on anything like that. I know he tried to do some work yesterday, and it's just a matter of how good he'll feel on Sunday.
You kind of touched on this, but they moved Joey over to that side a little more. I mean, did you guys expect them to test Blake like that? And how important was Joel kind of in helping out?
Yeah, Joel's big. I mean, obviously he's the leader of that offensive line. Yeah, we thought they would move Joey over, and test us on that left side, and Blake answered the bell. It's good to see.
Alex, the offense is so fast and could get down the field fast any part of the game, it seems. Yet, is there something to be said about tapping the brakes to just stabilize things and keeping the other team off the field more?
That's tough as an offensive coach to slow down, really. I mean, when you're scoring touchdowns, it's good. So we want to score touchdowns as many as we can.
You scored 35-35, you go down and just hand it off, and it only took 2.5 minutes to get to the end zone.
You never apologize for breaking long touchdowns. So, it's part of it, but, offensively, the more points we score, the better.
Do you think you have Jarvis on Sunday?
I'm not sure. Yeah, medically, I'm not sure where he's at. Hope so. Can't wait to get him back, whenever that is, because he's obviously a big part of our offense and a huge leader for us.
Was it something about the Chargers defense that you guys liked? I know you run a lot of 3 tight ends anyway, but it felt like the whole first quarter plus was almost all 3 tight ends. Was it something about what they did defensively?
We had a plan going in. We wanted to see how they responded and matched certain personnel groupings, and when we found one we liked, we stuck with it.
And our teams, even in that package, doing a better job or covering it, the deep ball differently? Because it felt like last year you'd run some play action out of that, and a guy would be open deep. And I don't think you've had the same opportunities this year.
We have not. Don't know if we've had those deep ball shots like you're saying yet. But eventually, they'll come. You can't stay back and defend the run all day, from that shell. So you'll have to bring somebody down and stop the run, and that's when that'll open up.
Speaking of deep ball, Alex, I apologize, it's a specific play, but the second to last where Donovan was going deep and then Odell came over, did Baker see that safety? Because some people thought Odell was wide open, but there seemed to be the safety that.
Yeah, that's for quarterback talk. That's a read there where the quarter safety sits and the ball goes over the top.
Yes.
About a minute, guys.
Alex, we've never seen coaches be so aggressive on 4th down, and sometimes it seems to kind of defy conventional wisdom. I mean, Staley goes for it 4th and 4 at the 28 or whatever last week. I think that's here to stay. Is that where the analytics are taking the game now, that we're going to see more?
I think so. Within reason, making smart decisions. If the analytics say that it's in your favor to do it, I think most teams now are leaning towards the analytics.
What stands out about that Cardinals defense, and how different is it if Chandler Jones doesn't have?
Obviously, he's a force. Very disruptive pass rusher. Not sure if he'll make it to the game or not, but he's a guy we definitely have to be aware of. It's a really good defense. There's a lot of defense out there. They do a lot of different things. They're very multiple. Vance does a great job with that.
20 seconds.
So it'll be a challenge for us.
What are you seeing from Watt?
Same player. He's disruptive in the run game, disruptive in the pass game. He still brings a lot of juice. Has one of the best arm over moves, in the business, and it shows up all day.
5 seconds. You're hot.
Definitely still playing at a high level.
Look, there's plays to be had out there. We've seen it in film, and there will be plays to be had against this Arizona team, which is, they have the one really impressive win against the Rams. That is the one that you hang your hat on. They were dominant of Tennessee, and that's when we thought Tennessee was maybe a little better than they were. They front run in that one. They got a big cruised. We know Tennessee can't chase, but this is a team where you're going to have some plays to be made. If you dictate to them, the 49ers. With competent quarterback play, beat them. Trey Lance wasn't ready.
No, he wasn't accurate, and they were 1 of 5 on 4th down, including at the goal line in a 7-point game.
Well, poor Trey, he didn't even understand to just reach it. Like he tucked it at the goal line. He just was right there.
Matt Stafford was a master of that.
Yes, he was. Yeah. Also at playing through injury.
Apparently so.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
a nice matchup.
This is a game for us to hang our hat, because people say, well, what's your hang your hat when you beat the Texans, you beat the Bears, you beat the Vikings?
Yeah, it's fair.
The other 2 chances we had, and we're a couple of literally 2 plays away, coming through on 2 plays from being 5-0, but we did not. And now we have that opportunity to do it where we can lock them from the ranks of the unbeaten, get to 4-2, feel pretty good about everything, all things considered. If, that's not a bad start given what our schedule is tough this year.
it does get easier in the coming weeks. I mean, this is the tough. I haven't looked at it, I guess, in a long time from top to bottom. There couldn't be a tougher stretch than having to play
There's
3
two
of your
stretches
6
here.
games where you – what would be the others? Because you play Kansas City at home, at Chargers, Cardinals. That's 3 out of 6. That's a pretty tough 6.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got back-to-back
Baltimore.
Ravens.
Well, who else is around that Ravens games? Who are
you
the
have
other?
the Raiders, depending on
I
who
think
they
that
are.
could go. I think that thing is hanging on by a
thread. And then you got Packers, Steelers.
Packers, okay.
And Bengals to close it out.
Okay. That's interesting. I still would say this is the toughest 3
was the
teams
one
you'll play in a
looking at, you were
6-game
like,
stretch.
That's a tough back-to-back week.
And I think if Denver, who we get next Thursday, and they'll have Bridgewater, so they'll be competent.
Currently
but
in the
they
playoffs,
if they didn't have all their wins are against nothing. It's the 2 Giants, the 2 New York teams in Jacksonville.
I love this debate every time.
Well, no, they just haven't beat anybody. Like their wins are against the 2 New York teams in Jacksonville. That's what
I always go back to Thursday nights are just quirky.
They are.
Weird things happens on Thursday night.
Also, too, to their credit, like they are
banged.
They don't have anybody. Chubb's down. Judy and Hamler done for the year. Or Judy, I don't think is done for the year, but Hamler's done for the year. So they're just battered. The Broncos are just battered. So, this is the tough stretch. It's the tough stretch that you're in, and it's right now. I'll tell you guys, we do scores tomorrow. There's some tough
games,
tough numbers.
Yeah,
they're hard to get a feel for.
Which is interesting because 2 weeks ago the numbers were low.
Yeah,
between everybody could go either way. Last week the numbers were 9, 10.
We had 3 10+ numbers.
Yeah,
last week. So there's 2 this week, but one of them's Indy. I don't know how Indy, and they play Houston. It's a divisional game. I don't understand how Indy could be favored by 10 over anybody.
No.
There's huge in the London game. There's huge injuries to the Miami team. They get guys missing practice. So
they're supposed to board a plane tonight.
Right. So it's a really interesting, and we have one tonight that we will have some thoughts on coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
You're clear.
ESPN Cleveland.
And be sure to catch the Kevin Stefanski Show presented by Howard Hanna on the University Hospital's Cleveland Browns Radio Network. We will be there. A.J. Green will join the program today as well.
That's right.
In a what I would be describing, hopefully, as a thorough and lengthy interview that I look forward to hearing. In-depth.
Yeah.
The in-depth style
We've
of that
had some
interview. That's what I look forward to. That's exactly what I want. Is
Don't
the in-depth.
fuel the Roy Firestone inside him. Yes, you are.
No,
you are fueling it.
Listen, no,
you are fueling the fireside chat.
Wrong.
What's wrong with a nice fireside chat? Nothing.
Wasn't that the McLaughlin group when they did that on SNL? When he would yell wrong? What would he say? Incorrect? How would he yell at them? Mike Myers played him, didn't he? Yelling at everybody?
Yes.
Love
the
on
the McLaughlin group? Yeah,
that'd be a good one, Mike Myers, you and Bootsy.
Oh, well,
Mini-Me?
Mini-Me would be pretty great. That'd be pretty good. I think you'll like this. I think you'll like what it is. I think you'll be pleased.
I know I'll like it.
All right, so we have Tampa Bay at Philly, and Tampa is 7. 7 of them. What do you make? This is a hard thing because Philly, week in, week out, getting drilled. And then they go to Carolina and beat Carolina. So was Carolina fake?
And they were getting drilled in that game, too.
Yeah.
It was a weird kind of – it was like Carolina had them, and then all of a sudden just kind of let it go, which was – it was
strange.
odd.
Very strange. Because up until that point, it had been a
Darnold threw, 3 picks?
Yeah. And Jalen Hurts played really well in the comeback there. But Tampa seems to be rolling to me.
So what you're saying is?
What I'm saying is
fly, Eagles, fly.
Fly, Eagles, fly. They're at home.
They're at home?
They're at home.
Bucks up 13. Hurts. Zach Ertz. Backdoor. Thursday night
Under
club.
the awning.
That's right.
Under the awning.
That's right.
I like
Bootsy in his robe with his post-school beverage of choice in his hand.
Got to figure some way to get his zest back for life. He thrives on the weekends.
Well, yeah, no school.
No school.
What's going to be a problem is that that first lengthy week off, like Thanksgiving week, and then getting it back. It could take days to get it back into a rhythm.
They have so many 4-day weeks. They had one last week. They've got another one next week.
My kid was home all day yesterday. I go, why? She goes, PSATs. I said, you can't go to school? She goes, no, it's only for freshman through junior. They just gave the seniors the day off. I'm like, what? I go, so you've been home all day? She goes, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Things
That's
are great.
Sounds like a real delight.
What in the hell are we doing?
What are we doing? All right, we'll see you tonight on the Coach's Show. The next level's coming up next.
Teach them well.
Oh, good job out of you.
Let them
Do you remember the Michael Jordan image with that? Or no, it was Dr. J at the All-Star game in 87.
Dr.
You remember
J.
that?
Yeah.